Hey, we're back.
Hey, yeah,
In a couple weeks. We gotta coordinate our vacations better. Take them on the same
we
time. Go
do.
together. Something. Let's just take a cruise
Well, we
together.
did, didn't we? I mean, you took a vacation, I took a vacation.
Unfortunately, they just didn't align. They're just off by a couple days, so I think we missed a couple weeks, right?
Did we miss 2 weeks? Have I
Hmm.
been gone? No, when did, oh, yeah, yeah.
You were
You
gone the week
went, you were
before
gone
last, and I was
last
gone
week,
last
and
week.
I was gone the week before. Yes. So
Unfortunately,
where did you go?
Vancouver, British Columbia. I got sick, unfortunately, and it was
Oh,
very
okay.
rainy, so I just stayed home,
Yeah.
which was fine. Listen, I've got a puppy who's only 7 months old at this point in time, and another one who's only
Okay.
2. So lots of walks with the dogs and mending, getting back up to
Mm,
health again. But listen, we've got 2 new
I,
T-shirts as
I
well.
almost,
I've got a
oh, yeah,
T-shirt from
yeah.
last year. Yeah, you got a new T-shirt.
Good.
It's a whole
No,
new
no,
podcast.
this is my one of my, I don't know, True Colors or whatever, some t-shirt brand that's like super comfy
That
and they're
makes sense.
great.
Yeah.
Um and I had another t-shirt on earlier today, and then I noticed there's like this big grease stain right like
From your
huge.
eggs or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where and we have some like spray on furniture cleaner
Mhm.
that's supposed to get everything out. So it's in the kitchen right now, and got a little science experiment going on trying to get rid of that stain. Um,
Yeah, I think a
but
T-shirt
yeah,
is it's just like a couch, right? It's
yeah,
fabric.
pretty much the same thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I did a vacation the week before,
Yep.
like an actual vacation,
Mhm.
and we almost passed you. We got on a cruise ship in Seattle,
Yep.
and we went north,
Yep.
but actually around the left side, the west side
Ah,
of Vancouver
Vancouver
Island.
Island? Gotcha.
So going up all the way up to Juneau, and
Ooh.
then came down to Sitka and Ketchikan,
Yeah, that's a good
and
time of the year, though. Did you see any whales? Because 'Cause I've heard of a few.
I saw probably, let's say, 3, 4 dozen.
Oh, okay, that's pretty
Yeah.
good. I thought you were going to say half a whale or a quarter or
No,
something
well, I
like
mean,
that.
it was always the
3, 4
tail as they were
dozen is
like
a pretty
flipping
good
the
number.
tail out.
Wow.
I think they were fighting with something like found a sea or something. They were tossing it around.
So you counted the
Um,
same one 48 times. I
well,
gotcha.
no, no, but then we kept seeing them. That
Amazing.
pod would go along, and then we'd see another pod, and the same thing would happen, another pod, and it was quite amazing.
That is so cool.
And it's a big cruise ship. And as I say, we stopped off at Juneau, Ketchikan, and Sitka. I'd say everything about the cruise was fantastic.
Yep.
Fun was had by all. I think there were three things that I wish they wouldn't do
Okay.
on these cruises. And I'd say that is the stop at Juneau, the
Okay.
stop at Sitka, and the stop at Ketchikan. Everything else was great.
Is it because they're I mean, Juneau's small, but
It's just
Sitka's gotta be tiny.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Sitka was actually pretty interesting compared to Ketchikan. I mean, mostly because it
Okay.
was a really great playground for Stella to play in,
Right?
and a nice beach. But generally, I mean, they're small towns. These cruise ships have 2,000 plus. There was another cruise ship with, there's always two or three of these cruise ships with 2,000 to 4,000 people
Right.
that all like descend on these towns that have a population of 1,000 or so.
Right.
Um, and so, but although in Juneau we did, it was in Juneau, yeah, we took a seaplane tour of the glaciers, which was
That's cool.
spectacular,
Yeah, no kidding.
spectacular.
Wow.
If the seaplane doesn't like crash, it's amazing. I mean, it's a great thing.
They're really
I mean,
old.
the yeah, and those seaplanes when they crash, I mean, there was a crash pretty close to Bainbridge Island, maybe a year ago, 2 years ago,
Okay.
and I mean, they found like no pieces left. I mean, when those things go
Oh, there's gonna
down,
be
it's
that.
like
I love those
there's
things. Yeah,
no,
but they're from, like, 1940 or something, like, they're
yeah, oh
pre-war,
yeah,
right? Pre
yeah.
pre-World War II? Yeah.
There's no electronics in these things. I mean, I think these
There
were
are
pretty
now.
modern
Yeah.
planes,
Yeah,
yeah,
they're retrofitted and stuff like that,
but
but yeah, they definitely were when they were
yeah,
made.
yeah,
So cool. I mean,
but
I love the planes, but also when you look at them, they're obvious refurbs, and they've been refurbed
yeah.
multiple times throughout the years. It's interesting.
The one downside to I mean, So we did the seaplane tour. It was three of us, me and my wife and our daughter.
Right?
And Stella, being 5 years old, she actually, I mean, she costs, okay, she's a little bit cheaper. She's like $10 cheaper than the
That's
other,
it?
the two of us.
It
That's
should be a
all we
bunch of
saved.
gas cheaper,
It's
yeah.
like 220, 230, something like that per person. So not a cheap, especially considering it's like 30 minutes in the
That's
air.
not too bad. I mean, it's American dollars, so it's a lot for a Canadian, but honestly,
But
that seems about right.
and so yeah, that was okay, except Stella gets on, she gets strapped in, and the window is like here and
See?
her head is like here, so she can't even see anything out. So she still has to pay. Well, I mean,
Right.
we
And
pay.
it
She
has to
doesn't
be
pay
strapped
anything.
in, obviously,
It
otherwise
has to be strapped in.
yeah.
Within seconds of the engine starting, she slept the entire time. I mean, she didn't really
I
have much that she could
mean,
do, but
yeah, I
she
guess
slept the entire time.
you discovered that she likes engine noise, I guess maybe that's
Yeah,
handy.
engine noise. I mean, being in the car with a
She coulda napped on the
5-year-old
ground
just
though,
helped.
right?
Yeah, so
Aw,
other than that, I mean, it was a great time. So, but
wow.
for the entire time that I was gone, I mean, we had Wi-Fi because of got Wi-Fi on the boat, but still
Right.
we weren't. It was mostly a vacation mode, so I don't know if there was any AI news.
Well, there was when you
Um,
left, and I wonder if you've used it. I won't spoil it too much, but, GPT-4o, I guess, is the big sort of announcement that had
oh
more news
yeah,
on,
yeah,
and multimodal
eh,
models from the usual suspects, basically.
yeah.
Yeah, we get a good comment in the chat is that the ground is not ground, it's water generally, unfortunately, when you're crashing in these things,
Yes.
which when Matt's talking about not finding any parts, that's part of it.
Yeah, I
I
mean, it water is really hard when you hit it at some velocity.
Also, might I interject and say that these planes were made in the '40s, and there are companies making planes now that are currently having
Yeah,
issues, so I don't
yes,
know which ones
yes.
I trust more, but, like, in my brain, I'm thinking that the one that's been surviving since the '40s is better, but,
Yeah,
yeah, that's probably unfortunate, yeah.
yeah.
Listen, thoughts and prayers, to all those involved in the plane that went down that Matt's talking about, but yes, belly splash is probably what happened.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really pay attention to too much news. Normally, I watch, like, those roundups and stuff like that, but even that, I didn't
Mm,
really watch too much. I did try GPT-4o. I don't know if you've tried it. I can explain what I did and see if that's
yeah,
interesting.
go for it.
Okay, alright, so, groggy as I was and not feeling well on the couch, laying down, and in a horizontal position, I took possibly the worst photo of, like, this kind of area of the room
Mhm.
that I could think of, and circled one of the, I think TJ Maxx would be the right term for this, TJ Maxx paintings that I have on the wall, and told it to describe it, which it did a really good job of. I
Yeah?
wanna say it's like, somebody failed to write "happy with trees in the woods," and it's got, like, a specific tonal quality and some relief to it, which is pretty neat. I asked it to describe that painting, and it did. And then
Mhm.
I asked it to generate another image, a fashion image,
Mm,
just because I think I know that vernacular pretty well, using the same, like, themes that it gave back to me.
right.
It did generate the image and generate an image of a living room, which is
Mhm,
cool, 'cause I just asked it for, like, that small context. There was no fashion involved, though, it was just, like, a really
mhm.
nice living room, and I was like, "Yeah," my response was, "In fashion, generally, there's a person in some clothing." So, it did add kinda almost like a cubist kind of rendering
Okay,
of a man in a suit, which, looked alright, and then from
okay.
there, I went on to, because I hadn't really played too much with the new DALL-E 3, so
Mhm.
I was having fun with multimodal. I decided to ask it to give me a painting of a perfect circle, which is one of those prompts that I've used quite a bit. It's my one unfortunate tattoo is like a shoddy perfect circle. But the thing about AI generated images is that generally they have issues with geometry, and a
Mhm.
circle is geometry. So at no point did we get a perfect circle, which should be quite easy to do if you know the tools and things like that. But obviously, the model's not made to
Sure.
handle this mode, which is probably
Right.
math. That's what it actually needs.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing that it could do is not generate just one circle. It's always like multiples.
Are you sure that isn't there a band called A Perfect Circle, and maybe it was, like, an interpretation of the band?
Yep, this is a good point. And in fact, the band, the reason I have that tattoo is for the same reason the band, which I think used to be Tool, is now named A Perfect Circle, or was named A Perfect Circle.
Oh, I didn't know there was a connection between Tool and Perfect Circle.
Absolutely. It's so this is
I mean, not
I'm
that I
ashamed
listen
to
to
admit
either one.
I'm ashamed to admit why I like it, but yeah, it's about sacred geometry basically, which is a myth, obviously. But the funny part is that you can describe a perfect circle, but not necessarily draw one. So I would have also accepted from this model, like, no, I can't make a perfect circle, or like I can describe one to you, but not create one. It failed pretty badly at making impasto, which is pretty interesting as well. Like just some really similar to the image I had given it. Basically, if you're going
What
to give
is
it
a
something
perfect circle?
a perfect circle is it's more of a math equation. So you would describe it on a graph. But
Okay.
as soon as you commit pen to paper, because of atoms and such, it's almost impossible to draw a perfect circle. Because, and this is what happens, is that your drawing instruments aren't as good as your measuring instruments. And I hit the mic. And I think if you could draw at like an atomic level and measure at an atomic level, you'd probably be
Right.
okay. But it's difficult to arrange atoms in a circular pattern as well, because they're going to be off by one, similar to aliasing in a computer screen, et cetera, et cetera. It's one of those like paradoxes.
Okay.
I know. But
Sure.
back
This
in the
is great.
day, there was a philosopher who thought that certain forms had power. A D12
Mm.
die is one of these, which might be of interest.
Mm.
A sphere is the other, like a perfect sphere. But they're objects that interesting. They could
Hmm.
describe, but not necessarily. That was weird. Not necessarily put in form.
Hmm.
There we go. Get some light back. Yeah. So that's this. Listen, this is our philosophy learning for the day. But one of these things you can do with a lot of these models is to have them describe to you or draw for your geometry. A five-pointed star is my favorite example for Illustrator because it's
Mhm.
difficult to do in Illustrator, but I probably brought this up before, sorry. But if you know the tool, you can get in there. It's through the octagon tool, but you have to know that there's inside points and outside points, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
Illustrator also can't draw a star to save its life.
Hmm.
It's quite awful because it's using a different engine to give you the image as opposed to the tool itself. And I
Mhm.
think I've been praying again. I've probably said this before, but I'm waiting for the assistants, the software assistants in the software that can help you do things similar to
Right.
that on ramp that you get from a lot of them. In order to draw a square, you go here and do it. Like, oh, why don't you just draw the square for me? Move my mouse and show me how that works. But we're not there yet. What we've got, and this, listen, I love and I hate Microsoft, but this is another piece of news that you may have missed, but it's the recall feature in Windows 11 that takes screenshots. I think it's every hour
Oh, okay.
of your activity, which is like
Right.
great idea, terrible idea. Like it's good and bad. So the problem I think that a lot of people have with it was the privacy concerns. My
Mhm.
understanding is that the model is local, so it should be okay.
Right.
But also, if someone were to get physical access to your computer, it could
Right.
be a damning log of what you've been doing
Right.
on a computer. I don't know about you. What I do on my computer is pretty much safe. I'd be okay letting people look at it. However, I can imagine that people who
Right.
may be sailing the high seas or doing other things like this, they may not want to have their history
Yeah.
in there. But yeah. So I thought the Copilot additions to Windows 11 actually sounds super cool for the same reason. I would like to see these assistants. Sorry, I've got one piece of hair that keeps bugging me. There's one piece of software that like is going to be part of your entire operating system and can not only run like the start menu, awesome, or the control panel or what have you, but also the
Right.
app underneath it. I think is phenomenal. My brain
Mhm.
immediately went to like the Rabbit R1 or the iPhone or
Mhm.
Android and what that would look like. So I'm pretty interested. Yeah, there's comments in the chat like, no, like, yeah, obviously, if Ubuntu had this kind of feature, maybe I'd be interested. I think it depends on the person. If Google had it, like,
Yeah.
absolutely not interested. Again, love Google to pieces, but in terms of like the privacy side, I think
Right.
this is maybe where we're at. It's like a gray area, basically. This whole, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I have used other tools on my
right,
computer that I've downloaded specifically to automatically take screenshots every,
right,
5 seconds, 10 seconds, just so I could
right,
remember at the what the hell did I do today?
right,
Um,
definitely.
but having that also hooked up to a model that can potentially identify stupid things I've done, or I mean, just taking what the ultimate goal of that is, not all the negative
Right.
possibilities. But I
Right.
mean, there's some neat things that it could possibly do.
Yeah, like tell it 9 to 5.
Yeah,
During work hours on my work computer. And maybe your work might not like this, but,
yeah,
maybe. I've done the screen recording of my desktop too when I'm doing a
yeah,
project or something like that,
yeah.
and I need to be able to train somebody after, but I'm not sure
Hmm.
if I'll remember all of the steps. I'm pretty diligent, but,
Right.
you often might forget something because MP4 screencasts are actually pretty small using, I'm
Hmm.
trying to think of the tool that I was using. Screen Hero, I think is what I was using
Hmm.
back in the day, or something like Screenpresso was the name of the
Right.
tool. Of all things. It just happened to be able to record a video and upload to YouTube when it was done as a private video,
Mm.
which was phenomenal for a team that's all
Okay.
on Google Drive, basically. So we
Right.
could do
Right.
things like record for contractors, upload it, get
Right.
transcripts as well. Like it was
Mm.
kind of nice. But yeah, it's a little bit different when it's not like your time machine
Right. Yeah.
screenshots, when you're
Yeah.
scrolling through them and it's somebody else that's done it for
Right.
you, I
Right.
think might be the bridge too far. But otherwise, yeah, agreed. This sounds like a phenomenal tool,
Right.
especially if I can do something like OCR on the screenshots.
Right.
That'd be amazing. Show me the time where I was looking at the Python 2 to 3 mistake that I did back here at,
Right.
at 2 p.m. kind of thing. Like, let me know when it happens so I can fix it.
Yeah.
That stuff's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're also not aware that Windows 10 is now becoming the most popular used operating system again as a result?
Oh,
All
because
right.
people are rolling back.
People are rolling back from Windows 11 because they don't want this feature. They're not sure
Right.
if it's opt in or opt out, and it's become this whole thing. Anyway,
Right.
so all
Thinking
this is
basically the Battlestar Galactica because it
you
can't interact with the robots.
you got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, at this point in time, I'm kind of leading into a segue, but we're getting to a point now where thinking shitification is the term, but like what we expected from the internet is maybe being perverted by other motives on the internet. One of which is to make money, which I think
Sure.
is pretty straightforward. Microsoft is probably trying to help you, but they probably want to have more stickiness to the operating system, have you use this instead of their browser that maybe people aren't using as much as they expected, et cetera, et cetera. One of these companies, which I've mentioned as part of this tirade, is Google. And one of the links that I found during the past week, and I was really watching like the awful parts of YouTube. The parts that you never go to, like the front
Mhm.
page. What is it, like Sniper Wolf with 4 S's and so I got like really just watching some awful takes. One of them was, do you remember that show Adam Ruins Everything from a long time
No.
ago? Might have been 10 years ago. So Adam Ruins Everything was the show with Adam. And Adam Conover, I believe is his name, had a show, and he would just basically ruin something
Mm.
for you. Like, hey, you really like grapes? Let's talk about how awful grapes are. That kind of stuff. Like, just ruin one
Mm.
thing that you thought was good natured fun, that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
This week, in fact, just yesterday, he dropped something how Google ruined the internet, which I would highly recommend watching. Not because like
Okay.
I think he's right, but because like some of the things he's talking about don't just apply to Google; they apply to a lot of things. But
Right.
what he's talking about specifically is this AI search result thing that I've not seen. I don't know if it's doesn't work in Canada or because I pay Google, I don't see it, but it will now give you AI generated search results. Sounds like a great idea. I think it feels like years ago now I said on this podcast that like ChatGPT to me feels like the find out engine,
Right.
find out how to do something
Right.
as opposed to Google, which is the find engine. Lately, these days, you can't really find much on Google, unfortunately. So they're working on the find out part. Awesome.
Right.
Except some of the examples I've seen are like, give me a recipe on how to create a pizza. How would I make a pizza? How would I bake a pizza? And one of the ingredients was glue. Another one tried to tell people about how to eat rocks. There's some
Right.
pretty bad examples. Unfortunately, the AI is, as you'd expect, the Gen AI is generating things that are
Right.
maybe not hallucinations, but perhaps not necessarily true. And it looks like they're rolling it back as a result of all the answers being incorrect. But I think Adams rant then got a little bit deeper about the search results and the effects of SEO and search engine ranking and how
Mm.
Google's more of an advertising company if you look at the numbers. 'Cause
Mhm.
I think hundreds of billions of dollars of revenue in 2023. I
Yeah.
somehow didn't know, like way over the GDP, the gross
Right.
domestic product of a country, which is kind of amazing. And then talking a little bit about the agreements that Apple might have with Google for search engine results as opposed to
Mhm.
Bing. that kind of stuff. And really for me, like ignoring the fact that Google's kind of ruined search and that there aren't really a lot of good search engines either because of SEO. The question is, like, if this was a 20-year lead, so Google had a 20-year lead on search. Let's
Yeah.
is that right? Maybe 25-year lead. I think I started using it around 2001. The question is, after 20 years, it made an impression on the market. The market changed as a result of the way Google worked, and now the results are less useful, which is funny because the two founders of Google had said that this would be the result if they started to have paid placement for ads. This would
Hmm.
happen eventually.
Right.
And the question I guess I have is that in 20 years, a lot of the tools that we're using now may suffer from the same sort of enshittification or like
Hmm.
gradually losing features or features becoming less useful over time. And I wonder, basically, like if we're at that level for operating systems for Microsoft, for example, or if we're at that level for phones, or if we're at that level for like an
Hmm.
Amazon personal assistant, that the question I've got in my mind, and I don't have an answer, is sort of like what's next. If we can think, because it's difficult to think 20 years in the future,
Right.
if we can think about the what's next, is it VR? Is there no screen? Is there no human interface device? Is it Musk's trodes that are falling off the person's brain? Like what
Hmm.
is it that, or retracting, I guess we should say, what is it that's going to be out there? And I've been thinking about this nonstop. Like what is the next? What is the new
Right.
thing? So I think I've already let the cat out of the bag for
Mm,
self-driving cars. They're all going to be trains, but the question, like in terms,
mm,
listen, I've solved transportation. Don't worry about it. So like moving on to other topics, I just anyway thought exercise, but that's
mm.
kind of what Adam ruins everything had me thinking about.
Okay.
And not to like I'm gonna ramble just a little bit more. So sorry. But while I was thinking about this, I came across, it's got to be from last year, something called organoids. Have you heard of organoids?
Only when you mentioned it just before we
In
started.
the green room
And
before.
I,
Okay. So an organoid, my understanding is an organoid means a small organ or like a piece of an organ, or many pieces of an organ, to sort of make it kind of work like an organ. So in the past, I mentioned that I worked at a stem cell research company. One of the products that we had at the time was imagine like a fake lung that you could put cigarette smoke into in order to look at the effect on tissues that it had. Now
mhm,
we'll talk about the results or anything like that, but we made a box that would show us the effects of smoking on some tissue. Organoids, in this case, when you look them up, generally seem to apply to brain tissue. And
mhm,
organoids are made of multiple brain stem cells that have been that are growing basically into brains.
mhm,
And this was cutting edge about I want to say 5 years ago. The fact that we could make like a
mhm,
1 centimeter size brain. I think what happened last year, and somehow I picked up news from last week, from
mm.
last year, was that we went from 1 centimeter to 1 inch, and we're able to train the organoid to play Pong.
Oh,
I think last week the development may have been that we've been able to show sentiment or show some semblance of sentiment in like a pre-fetal brain. Again, no idea about the political,
wait,
societal implications of this.
what word did you
Sentiment,
use there?
sentiment,
Sentiment or
feeling.
sentience?
No, not
Feeling.
sentience, sentiment. Sentience,
Sent
I think, if it can already play Pong on its own, I think we're at sentience.
Mhm,
Unfortunately, the writing's on the wall. But we're at the point now where we're talking about organoid intelligence as opposed to
right,
artificial. So this is
right,
not this is no longer artificial. This is like
right.
this is official.
Mm,
It's in meat space, but we're creating fake brains that can play Pong and may or may not have feelings.
mm,
It's where we're at, and
mm.
and again, I got nothing to say about either of these topics, just a lot of thought. So I've been thinking a lot about yeah,
Yeah.
perfect circles and fake brains,
Wow.
and whatever the 20-year, 25-year life cycle of something like an RSS
Right.
reader would look like. Because we still don't have one. I just want to put that out there. We still don't have an RSS reader, other than like Feedly, and it's still not great. And Google Reader's
Mhm.
been dead for a long time, so I'm not sure. Like RSS feeds are still alive. Uh,
Yeah.
the company I
I
work
rely on
for
'em all the time.
can read them, right? So do I. It feels
Yeah.
like it's one of those corners of the internet that's unexplored.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
So in the comments, we're talking about growing spare brains. So not to scare you too much, but in order to grow one, what they need is stem cells. Now you can get those from epithelial stem cells, which means that you can use skin. So you could use like a piece of skin, a skin graft, to start growing the cells. The medium is important. It took them a while to find the right medium, but once you have the right medium, which can, again, another random thing, you can 3D print mediums for growing stem cells now. I went down a bit of a rabbit hole here, but yes.
So does that mean you can rub up against somebody, swipe some of theirs, like a scratch or something?
Yeah, have you seen Gattaca? we all get guns and we have to like dance with them. No,
yeah.
What am I trying to say here? Like illegal cloning is one of the things my brain went to. So like if you walk past me, or maybe let's put this in reverse. If I walk past you and knew, hey, that's a tall person, perhaps I could figure out what made them tall and figure out whether or not I could splice that with mine and maybe clone me and then somehow get my intelligence in the new body. Like all of these things. What does that? What does it mean? We're also making large strides in gene therapy as a result of the past 3 years, that kind of thing, which is interesting because we've mapped the human genome and we've been able to isolate a bunch of things that tell us about the human genome. And I think I've talked about, I got my dog's DNA tested, for example, and there are genomic markers for dogs now as well that have been isolated, so they can tell you whether or not they're more or less wolfy, for example, which I thought was amazing. Like wild, I guess is what they're looking for, like a wild dog. Yeah.
How much does that cost?
Way too much money. So it's run, I think it's, way too much Canadian money anyway. It's run by, I think it's Duke or Yale University. So like an Ivy League university. It's part of like their little program kind of thing. But I believe Canadian was about $200. You can grab them on Amazon. They have free shipping. We ended up driving it to Blaine to ship it off because the shipping in Canada was kind of weird. But regardless, not too bad. But honestly, we knew they were both bugs. Kind of pointless. I think the goal is to figure out if you can find other relatives on this app sort of thing. But yeah, it was kind of cool.
See if they're somehow related to you.
Yeah, or like, do you want to clone? Like, are we at the vat clone dog period? It feels like we're at designer dog, right? Like maybe not designer humans, or like we're saying in the chat, like find the sportsmen or intelligent people. Yes. Matt is both, so it's a twofer. But yeah, 200 loonies to give me the result that yes, I kind of already knew, but I did really enjoy the like 100% match relative kind of thing, which is both like if this a human, that's kind of creepy, but also kind of cool. I've done it for myself as an example, and my family members have public profiles because of course, so you can tell that I'm related to them even though you can't find my name, that kind of stuff. So if you find their name, you can find other relatives. But I guess a lot of privacy concerns about the whole making cloned brain out of human epithelial stem cells, I believe.
Wow.
and like who, so Matt, if I cloned you, who do I owe royalties to for the brain ideas that I'm getting? Do I owe them to you or your parents? Or like I'm very confused. Like I'm happy to pay you money. These ideas are gold. However, where do I address the checks?
Wow.
So that's my big rant. So I've been doing a lot of research into stuff that's just not even related to work. Unfortunately, I wish I had better stuff for you. But in terms of intelligence, I think, and how we get there.
Wow.
Yes, it's exactly 100 toonies. At some point we'll have $5 coin. A toonie is a $2 coin. A looney is a $1 coin. What happened was we had the loonies first. Yeah, so we ran out of great names, and I think we just decided to call them toonies. Yes. Yeah. Do we owe, like, if your brain idea gives me good ideas, do we owe your spouse money? Like, is it pre or post spouse? Like, were the stem cells? Because cells are weird in that, like, it's kind of the ship of Theseus, right? When you're born, the cells that you were born with, very few of them will be surviving now. You'll have a very minute amount left. So yeah, do we owe your spouse more money than we do your parents? It's difficult. Or your daughter, as mentioned in the chat, because she will also have had an influence on you. It's difficult. And is that your brain or is it a different brain? Does it have potential to be Matt's brain? Do I have to train it the same way that we train Matt? This could be awful.
Hmm.
Yes, lots of questions. Okay, I think I caught up to the chat. Oh, okay. So because I hadn't seen this Google thing, so one wrinkle is, according to Engelsman Finland, is that what it will do is give you an answer off to the side on the Google search.
Mm,
Then you'll get an advertisement, and then
right.
below you'll get the relevant, but it's on the right. So I wonder if maybe I'm blocking it with some sort of
Uh,
ad blocker or something like that.
I got it up top,
Oh, okay, like
like
before the sponsor.
well, this was the where you ask a question and it gives
Yep.
you up top, and it was uh something about black holes. I was it was one of my kind of standard AI questions,
Right.
and it gave me an answer right up top. Um,
Oh,
and then I tried to bring it up again and I couldn't get it up again.
weird. I wonder if this is like region, because in Canada we've got some, at least with Google, we've had some odd stuff with Bard, so maybe
Yep.
it's taking a bit to get here.
But then
Perhaps.
related to
Mhm.
that, I feel like a few weeks ago there was a similar story about Twitter
Right.
and its
Grok.
AI engine making up stories, and then the Twitter verse kind of amplifying that out, including the head of finding weird stories that just are like really awful, and then making, oh well, this is obviously true because I saw it on Twitter.
Are you trying to say the elongated muskrat got involved
Yes,
as well?
yes,
It's got to be really hard when you've created a software product that you believe in, right? Like your
right,
product manager or something like lead eng or something like
yeah.
that, and you feed this to your boss and they think it's great, and then it's out there like, yeah, see the awesome answers it's giving, and it's like, oh wait,
Yeah,
oh no.
none of it's true.
I kind of feel bad because you just know like the blood, sweat, and tears that would have gone into this.
Mhm.
I talked to somebody who used to work there earlier today, for
Mm,
example. Just had like a 15-minute sort of chat,
mhm,
and we talked about like when you're working on a project like that, and maybe there's layoffs, or maybe a new
mhm.
founder comes or a new CEO comes in, and you don't have like you're losing like these years of work, and imagine
Mhm.
being just at the finish line, and like what I think it's called Grok, and Grok's going to give you bad
Yeah.
answers, but also you just want to deliver this and maybe iterate on it kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then your boss starts like retweeting it and the answers aren't great. It's just I had a sinking feeling there when you were saying it. Basically I was like,
Yeah.
oh no. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's funny. Also, I feel bad for the engineers for
Yeah.
perhaps due to a recent chat I've just had. That's
Yeah.
awful. Instagram apparently can now, or could, I have not seen it on mine. Again, this could be a Canadian thing, but if I open it here, it's apparently supposed to be able to take an image that you've uploaded and create like a reel from it, so a video,
Mm.
up to 15 seconds. And my understanding was it was under the search area.
Hmm.
Mine does not say anything about AI, which is great. And when I go to post, it doesn't either, which is great.
Yeah.
I do wonder what the experience is like elsewhere, though. But it seems like when you go to the search area or the discover area, that you could type in things and it would generate stuff for you, or you could type in a search and it would generate results for you, which is kind of interesting as well. But I did check the upload; it didn't seem to offer me anything.
I don't seem to see anything. It's the first time I'm opening up Instagram in like a year.
Oh, you know what? I haven't updated the app either. That's
Oh,
possible.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, both of
I don't
us, right?
see anything AI related here.
I didn't either. I'll update the app and see if it's there.
Okay.
But I wonder about sort of where we are now. If every app is going to be adding quote unquote AI to the app, is it going
Hmm.
to be something like generated images or videos or audio or what have you? Cool. Or is it going to actually be useful?
Yeah.
It's like maybe it's because I'm in the creator space, but when we're talking about generating images and stuff like that, I expect the quality to be good. And I've
Hmm.
Midjourney is okay, but like other than Midjourney, it's stable diffusion
Yeah.
0.9 sometimes, but really not good.
I mean, there's a reason I still subscribe to Midjourney,
Right.
for and use it for a lot of thumbnails
Yeah.
for my videos because nothing else has come close to it.
DALL-E 3 doesn't hold a candle to it. Having
Yeah.
just used it, it's the results are not even close.
Yeah.
Bing, which I think is also DALL-E 3, same thing. I've tried Stable
And maybe
Diffusion
with
locally.
those other
Mhm.
tools, if you put a lot of effort into coming up with the right prompt, but I mean,
No,
with Midjourney, you don't have to.
no,
I mean, you
no.
put in one
Your
word,
prompt could be
and it's
your
like,
prompt could be a word. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and it's
So
like
much better.
magic.
So
Yeah.
much better. It kind of it feels like it intuits what I want to see, which I know
Mhm.
I know it doesn't do. I realize that there's
Yeah.
like a super prompt in the background that they're adding. But in DALL-E 3, the prompts that I have to get in order to get like a sticker, it's
Mm.
got that sticker design kind of thing. It's got to be at least two or three paragraphs, and I'll
Yeah.
steal them. Like there are
Yeah.
prompts that you can get to help me borrow perhaps or loan.
Yeah.
But still, the amount of effort involved, I could have just used Midjourney,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
hate to say it, like a lot of times I'm using it for brainstorming, and I will redraw
Yeah.
or like take that photograph or what have you, but it just doesn't hold a candle. And
Yeah.
still to this day, in terms of style, I still find Canva has some things that it's still better at,
Mm.
and for
Mhm.
text generation, Notion still, because it's in your workspace, still is
Right.
better at some
Right.
things than like Google or
Yeah.
anything that I've seen in Word.
Yeah. Yeah. I still use Midjourney a lot, especially
Mhm.
now that it's a web interface and not rather than having to use Discord.
I haven't used the web
Um,
interface. Interesting.
it's great. I mean, I don't even bother opening up that Discord channel for Midjourney. It's
That's
I can
cool.
do it all through the web UI, and it's incredible.
That's awesome. Yeah, it is one of those tools that was kind of an aha moment, and I know
Mhm.
well, I thought I knew. It was a fork of Stable Diffusion or Stable Diffusion XL
Mm.
or something like that, but I've tried to get those results out of multiple like, even if you go to was it Civet AI Risky Click? But Civet AI will have a bunch of models in there that can help you get, like, cinematic kinda scenes, which are
Mhm.
cool, and
Yeah.
Midjourney can do a pretty good job of. They still like they're not the same quality, they're not the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
resolution. It's just like that finesse is missing,
Yeah.
unfortunately. It feels like
Yeah.
they have I don't know. Stable Diffusion, my understanding is was not doing too well financially, other than the
Mhm.
model, like the company
Yeah,
itself,
'cause
but it
didn't like
sounds
the CEO leave like in a very
yes,
open, like very loud way? But
yes,
it's at like and it sounded like from the some people who were talking about it suggesting that, yeah, might not have been his choice to leave, um, and that it was, his might not have been a great leader.
Yeah, I pulled it up just to
Yeah,
make sure I had the facts right, but yeah, about
yeah.
a year ago, they started to have issues, and then 2
Mhm,
months ago, they had, one of their key leaders leave, and then about a month ago, they had, multiple researchers leave. March
mm,
20th, it looks like, maybe it's 2 months ago, a bunch of
right,
researchers that were on the team leave, unfortunately.
yeah,
But it feels like this is going to happen multiple times as well. There's going to be a period of consolidation. It
mhm,
like, just looking at previous boom bust echo kind of scenarios, I guess the
mhm,
question is, like, you've got all of these talented engineers, they're gonna wanna end up somewhere, and there
right,
are definitely vacancies in some companies for AI
right,
research and data science and what have you. So the question is what that consolidation looks like. Is it going to be more in favor of Microsoft, for example, who seems to be
mhm,
doing a pretty good job of consolidating, versus like an Amazon who are partnering, seems to be their strategy, or a Google who are kind of doing a little bit of both, as far as I can tell, is
right,
partnering and acquiring. But those seem to be the big three right now. Facebook's doing a different thing, I would
mhm,
say, and that they're really trying to get the open source models
right,
out there
yeah,
in a way that is usable for good, which is like
right,
that is a difficult thing to
yeah.
do. Yeah, so all the power to it. Sorry, I feel like I've talked a bunch this episode, but presumably you've watched some movies
That's
or
good.
listened to some
That's
music.
good.
What have you got for us?
I mean, one of the questions that came up, like, in the 3rd, 4th question was, have you heard of Fabric?
Oh.
You know anything about Fabric?
I mean, I know of Fabric, but it's
You d
probably a different Fabric.
not
Fabric is
like this, not
well,
this Fabric,
there's
or
the networking overlay in Kubernetes that also ran
yep,
back in the day,
there's that
which I
Fabric,
I was a big fan of Fabric back in the day.
right. There's another Fabric that is the now I can't find it. It's an
If I look for
AI kind
Fabric
of
AI,
agent workflow kinda thing. I haven't
Augmenting
really
humans
looked.
using AI from Daniel Miesler. Does that sound about right?
That's it. Yes.
Woo.
So I haven't looked into this one, but I
Oh,
have
okay.
looked
Okay.
into.
Can we just pause just quickly on the note on the repo? So May 23rd, we will be switching Fabric to Go in a few weeks to avoid all the installation issues with Python. Now that, sir, shots fired.
Well,
I'm assuming
that's
they mean the system version of Python, but like if Go is easier to install than Python, we got problems.
well. I mean, that's the whole reason Olama is on Go, because
Really?
Python is a pain in the ass to deal with. And
Wow.
so,
I may or may not work for a company that vendors Python, like as in installs Python with the actual package.
right.
Yeah.
No, it's
Okay.
so I mean, I mean, Olama just got so much faster as soon as it switched over to being Go. I mean, you
Wow.
don't, as a user of Olama, you don't have to know anything about
Right.
Go. You don't have Go
Right.
installed. It's an executable that you download, but it's all
Yeah.
written in
Yeah.
Go.
Man. I'm trying to think of the issues I had with Go. It was like environmental variables back in the day. There was like Go path, like their Go
Yeah, I
ver.
mean, I think
But
early
that's gotta be 5,
on,
6 years ago now.
you had to have that Go path, and then you had to
Go
have
path.
folders, in specific folders
Yes.
in that like root directory.
Mhm.
And so if you had the Go path or Go base or something like that to your root, you had to have like a bin directory for, or Go bin or something like that, and you had to have a Go lib, or there were specific directories. So it was a very opinionated install, and I've seen that. I I, I have the door just open. Oh,
Oh, hello.
hey,
We have a guest.
what? Oh, yes.
Stable genius, Matt, has not forgotten to give the keys to somebody prior to the podcast.
Well, no, they. So my wife and mother went to an eye doctor, which is way south, Gig
Okay.
Harbor, I think.
Oh,
And so they gave me my mother's car and her keys in case
right.
I need to go pick up Stella from school at 3 o'clock. It's coming up to that, but they have just gotten home, so I
Uh-huh.
don't need to do that. But they
Uh-huh.
want the keys, so they can use that car to leave.
There
That's
you go.
that's the.
But like these comments seem to have Matt written all over them. It's like, so you've got an augmented AI that can run side by side with you and ask it questions all day and then export to Obsidian.
Oh, is
Could this
that
be?
what's?
That's what Engelsman
Oh,
Finland
okay.
said in the last comment there. This could not be more Matt Williams. This sounds right up your
Yeah,
alley.
this looks. I mean, there are lunch. I mean, at first I thought this was purely another one of these
Like a
agent
front end.
workflow, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
seems to be different. So I need to
Yes.
look into this,
Me
because
too. Yeah.
I have done a uh oh, weird. I've done the video I'm putting out probably today, maybe tomorrow, is about some of these agent workflow frameworks,
Right.
and how they're all garbage. And
They're getting there. They're getting there.
well, they're useless. I mean, Crew
They
AI is
they
a great
currently seem
example.
useless. I haven't tried Glue.
Autogen,
AutoGen
or
has, yeah.
auto what, and they will like rely on this agent and task, and you define both, and maybe one agent you can run different tasks, but
Right.
you're having to define it. They're very verbose in how much stuff you need to put in there,
Right.
and it's not all that clear about where does some of this text actually get used. And you're probably providing too much information to the model, and it will get confused, and it does get confused. And so it just it and there's in fact, I take one of the examples that I forget who did the video, but it's about 200, 400 lines of code that this person had to write to get this pretty simple 4 task workflow to work. And I do it without any framework. Do exactly the same thing without any framework in like 40 lines of code. Um, without having to think about. And so if you are
Right.
automating a known workflow, and you are using a combination of tools as well as model to understand the results or to trigger something off, using these frameworks makes zero sense.
Right.
And you can do it faster without any of those tools. Now,
Have you ever
if you're
used like?
but
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
well, I mean, this fabric looks like it's doing something a little bit different, and
Yes.
so that is potentially interesting. But but yeah, this video is really targeting at like Crew AI and AutoGen and some of these others that are trying to do this other kind of workflow, which is they all suck.
That's fair. Looking at this reminds me of, I don't want to say temporal, but something similar to like a temporal in terms of a workflow engine,
Mm,
which to me is like that's very powerful. If I can have like natural language temporal interface, that would be pretty powerful. Because that's what I think we're talking about. Is I don't want to write 200 lines of code.
right,
40 is probably okay. 30 is probably okay. Like when we're talking
right,
about a lang chain versus me writing a proper Python script or something like that, like
right,
those are okay trade-offs. But if I could say something like, "Hey Matt, when this happens, please do this, unless
right.
that happens, and then do the other thing,"
Yep.
that seems like I should just be able to talk to if this, then that sort of thing. Like this is
Yeah,
something
yeah,
that they will be able to handle for me, or
right.
that what's that other one? Shoot. API something, Appigate. Anyway, Apiary. There's a couple other tools
Oh,
that
like
will.
if this and that kind of variations.
Yeah.
Like there's make what used to be Integromat.
Oh, I never heard of that one.
Um,
Awesome.
there's NAN. And then there's all sorts of other these kind of low code, no code type of
Oh,
platforms that
Zapier is what I was thinking. It's got
Zapier.
API in
Oh
the
yeah.
name, but it's like after
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Z
yeah.
part. I forgot about it. So
Yeah,
Zapier, I
Zapier
think is.
rhymes with happier. That's the way to
I like it. That's a good mnemonic device.
No,
My
that's
brain was like,
apparently
has
what
to do with
the like
APIs.
CEO said at one point. Like
I like it.
Zapier rhymes with happier.
I like it. I mean, there's a few of these, obviously,
Yeah,
but like Zapier and IFTT or
yeah.
IFTTT are the ones that I know. But the back end, I think that would be more of kind of a workflow engine. And maybe that's where we're
Hmm.
at because it feels like at least the natural language processing part to code could be one of those locks that allows or unlocks that allows the citizen developer to become
Hmm.
more prevalent. I'm kind of hoping for the low code, no code promise becomes
Right,
a little bit more prevalent. Imagine creating like a logic app in Azure using
right.
just speaking to it would be kind of cool.
Yeah,
That's kind of where I'm hoping. Like I don't know
yeah,
if my mom's watching again this week, but like if my mom wanted to use AI to create some sort of workflow,
right.
could she? And how long would that take? Or what
Yeah,
would she need to do in Chat GPT 4.0 to get her there?
right.
This looks pretty cool. I would definitely try
Yeah.
this. And no worries about going off tangent. I don't think we have much to talk about
No,
this
there's
week at
no.
all. So thank you for being in the chat and keeping us entertained. Otherwise, we just ramble off like
So,
two old
but
men meet
it's
again.
interesting if it. I noticed scrolling through it, it looked like
Hmm.
yeah, it saves to as Markdown, so therefore Obsidian,
Right, right.
and so that sounds pretty cool. I definitely need to look into it a bit more.
Yeah, I really like these patterns. I think is the thing.
Yeah, and so that's
Mhm.
the for a lot of these kind of agent workflow. A lot of what they're doing is mostly useless, but then
Right.
there are these uh, other pieces like the actual actions that they can do um, that it's trying to kind of um, orchestrate. It's those actions that they should really be focusing on, and it looks like that's what these guys for
Right.
um, what was it called again? Fabric
Fabric?
are
Yeah.
trying to do.
Yeah, I think the fact that there's stuff built into this, like, transcriptions and YouTube, for example, are
Hmm.
2 things that I could get started with right away.
Yeah.
Right. Were there, did you purchase anything we should know about or watch any
I
movies or
so I
albums?
I, I think I mentioned the iPad, right? Did I?
Yes.
Did I?
Did it
Okay,
arrive?
so
Yes?
no, I'm still waiting
Okay.
on it. I'm still
Is
waiting on the thing in the App Store or Apple Store to say something beyond it will be available soon.
ah, that's unfortunate.
So it still hasn't even shipped. But hopefully I'll get my 13-inch iPad Pro
So
soon.
it's basically like crushing down pianos and stuff
Yes,
to make
yes. Yeah, well, okay, so I don't think we've talked
Did we
since
not
that
talk about that
ad,
ad? Okay.
which I don't understand the kerfuffle about this ad. This
I
ad
do.
that kind of celebrates creativity and celebrates creative people, and people were upset about it.
Yeah, I'll make it really easy. So, Matt, I celebrate you. I think you're an awesome athlete and you're very
Uh-huh.
intelligent, as mentioned previously in the podcast. So,
Hmm.
as a result, what I'm going to do is squish you and put you.
Right. Into an iPad? That's amazing. That should be
but
like,
but you
this
no
is
longer exist.
celebrating
I
that.
think this is the problem. It's like so
But
what
that's
people
not
got.
what the ad showed.
Yeah, well, the fact that they're gone, I think, is the issue. So I think most people took it as like electronics and technology are crushing all of what human thinks is creative into a device that is like uncaring metal hunk
And
of
yet that's
it has
so
no
not
soul.
what they were
I know, I
doing.
know.
It's
I
such
can see
a
both sides of
I
this
remember
story.
watching the ad thinking, that is a freaking
Cool
amazing
ad.
ad.
Yeah.
Amazing. It's such
I
a
also
great
thought so.
encapsulation of what the iPad is, this
It's
creative
all of this in
device
one,
that
right? Yeah.
has
Yeah.
all the essence of all these things in
Yeah.
there. It's amazing.
And I know they're trying to say, look, it's Logic, it's Premiere, it's got like Lightroom, it's got this AI stuff. You can start making sonatas, and everybody's like, nah, you're killing all of these industries. Because I think what they're thinking is like, hey, there was a big SAG-AFTRA strike that's caused by tech. Apple's in
Mhm.
tech, you're causing us to lose money.
Right.
This only like it's salt in the wounds kind of thing,
Right.
which works if you lump all of tech together, right? Let's
Right.
if you're not in the industry, this is all tech. Coming from the same company, mind you, that had that 1984 ad, Think
Mhm.
Different, where they threw the thing at the TV, you
Right.
know, it was all like, hey, we're gonna be creative and stuff like that. This, I think, felt to most people as like a spiritual antithesis or like the opposite of that old ad. It was like, yeah,
Yeah.
we came from there, and like what
Right.
would like if Jobs were still alive, what would he say? Which was a common
Right.
refrain. I'm like, I don't know. Jobs would
Right.
probably be okay with this. It's
Yeah, I
based
know.
on what I know of Steve Jobs. I think he'd be
Yeah.
okay with it. It sounds like maybe you drank a lot of Kool-Aid. I don't know. no,
I
no
don't
offense.
know. I mean, I think it was genius. Genius ad. It was amazing.
I thought it was really well executed as well. I don't know if I don't think the motive was as obvious as they thought. I think is the issue. It
Right.
was obvious to me. It wasn't as obvious
But
to
then
everybody.
again, I mean, it was
Like the intent.
the thing that I didn't, if there had to be something that I didn't like about it, it was that none of the things in the ad were like real things. They were all like that sculpture that was being squished. It was
Right.
just obviously clay and not really a thing. The piano was this ancient kind of shell of a piano, and we
Yeah. Who
saw
needs
that as
pianos?
it's getting crushed. Um, and no, I mean, it wasn't the full. It was all these like bits and outside shells of things rather than the actual artistic
Right.
things.
Right.
Um,
And I think what
but
people are saying is like Apple's killing creativity or is killing the source of creativity. And in order to create from now on, you only
yeah.
need to use the iPad. Now, listen, we're almost at time and I don't want to regale you with too many stories, but have I told you about the critique meetup I had with the uh, photography professor?
No.
This is not even about his department, so it feels like an unfair quote. But basically, at Emily Carr, which is a local art school, one of the
Hmm.
issues they're having in the illustration class, as an example, is the fact that AI art is out there and is
Mm.
prevalent. You could use it for coming up with new ideas, and maybe in illustration, the technique of drawing is not as important as coming up with the idea of some sort of
Hmm.
illustration of a concept that would be difficult to think about otherwise. Like
Right.
Magritte, for example, with a pen that says under Cecine Buzzing Bloom, like this is not a pen,
Hmm.
because it's an idea that's like another level, and maybe the drawing is less important. The issue they're having is that no one wants to buy paper or pens anymore. They'd rather use their iPad. Cool.
Mm.
On the other hand, being able to prove that this illustration came from a real human is becoming quite difficult. And this
Mm.
is where we're at. Is that they don't want to buy a paper. In
Hmm.
fact, he was complaining about it because they didn't want to print in the photo department. They don't want to print out paper. They don't want to use a dark room. I disagree,
Hmm.
but I'm also old school, so whatever. I'm not an illustrator, so for me, thinking the iPad sounds about right. I mean, like
Yeah.
if the technique's not important and I'm getting the idea out there, it should be cool.
Right.
The problem the profs are having is they really can't tell legitimately if the artwork being submitted by students that's electronically created is in fact done by them. Like, does it have
Right.
what do you look for? Like watermarks from Photoshop? All you have to do is
Right.
open Photoshop and save it as a different format. Like, there's a whole
Right.
bunch of stuff that you need to think about in terms of the provenance of the actual
Yeah.
artifact, which is the file, let alone like the pianos and stuff you're squishing. Like, great, we're on the
Mhm.
iPad now. I can't tell if this is real or imagined art. And
Right.
people have paid me to help them get better, but I don't know if they're actually if they're working
Right.
on getting better in order to have a career in illustration, or if they're just going to use AI throughout their entire career, and
Mhm.
that's where we're at. So the concept artist is the AI machine, and you are now the pen and paper, or maybe it does all of it. Anyway, again,
Mm.
no conclusion here, but it was a fun
Yeah.
conversation about like what is real art when
Right.
someone's paying you or their parents are paying you to help them
Right.
learn to create real art.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a quagmire is maybe the right term. I'm
Yeah.
pulling out all the $5 words today.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's it about AI art. I picked up a bunch of stuff on vacation, but didn't use too much of
Yeah.
it. Have you shot any film lately? Do you shoot a lot
I've
of
not
film?
shot any film in years and years and years.
I'm not gonna suggest that you do, but when we're
Mhm.
talking about the veracity of art, one thing you could do is to shoot like instant film or film or what
Mhm.
have you. And maybe because of that, I've been shooting a lot more film these days. In particular, Ilford. I don't know if you remember Ilford from
Mhm.
way back
Yeah.
then. Ilford's now owned by Harman. The
Mhm.
Harman is kind of the rebranding, and they came out
Like
with a.
Harman Kardon, same
I
company or?
I think it is, but
Okay.
also I think Harman Kardon's owned by Samsung.
Oh, okay.
But I have a feeling that it isn't. But yes, my brain made me think that yes, Harman is in fact a Samsung company.
Hmm.
Okay, but I'm not sure if that's the same company that owns the film. Anyway, for
Okay.
now, I think it is.
Okay.
They released a new color film that is extremely orange, and I don't know what you know about like white balance and stuff like
Like for
that, but like
tungsten or for
other way around. Yeah,
other way
other way
around
around.
for fluorescent?
If you if you're shooting sunsets, it looks amazing.
Oh, okay.
If you're shooting you and I, we look like Jersey Shore. To complicate matters even further, the colors change depending on the ISO that you use, the speed of the
Mm.
film, which you know on digital cameras you can use auto
Okay.
ISO or whatever.
Yeah.
It's box rated at 200, but having recently watched a factory tour, it's
Mhm.
rated at 125. So
Mhm.
the speed that it's at and the speed that you're shooting are different. So if you overexpose, you're probably okay. Or if you develop at 100, you're probably okay, but it's gonna be a little bit too bright. What I ended up
Hmm.
doing was just adding +7 to it, and the colors changed completely from roll to roll, and I shot
Mm.
4 rolls. Anyway, I thought this is kind of cool. If ever
Wow.
you want to pick up like a disposable camera and kind of feel the
Okay.
nostalgia a little bit, or
Yeah.
maybe get some big prints, or perhaps you could teach your young one the joy
Yeah.
of film, or maybe the pain of film. All
I
the
I
strife
I
and
think
anxiety.
I
I
probably have a
figured.
dozen different film cameras in my
I figured.
garage, so
Yeah, like an Olympus, right? You used to shoot Olympus?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
OM2S, OM3,
yeah, yeah.
OM4,
Those are all great
uh,
cameras. Yeah,
Nikon, I've got an FM in there, different all
also a
sorts of
great camera.
things.
At any rate, so if at any point you need to prove the veracity of your files and it's not like
Yep.
a Leica, I think Leica supports the DCA standard, the standard that says like, yes, this came from a camera, it has not been modified.
Mm.
Here's the original file. Film is still there. Will
Right.
cost you, I think, in Canadian dollars for scanning and printing about $40 a roll, so it's not
Oh,
cheap
yeah.
for like developing and everything included, as well as
I
like I don't
I
know if
still
you
have
pay
my
yourself for
Coolscan
anxiety.
8000 in the closet in the garage.
That thing's a collector's item and is worth a lot of money. I'm not sure if you
Is
knew.
it?
Yes.
No.
Yes. Hop on
Like,
eBay and do a price check when we're done.
really?
Yes. If you're not going to
I
use it.
haven't touched it, and I mean,
Listen, I would offer to buy it. I legitimately don't think I can afford it. It's that bad.
really?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And people will
Wow.
like restore old Macs to use with it because they prefer the Coolscan. Maybe it's 9,000 specifically, but the 8,000 is
Mhm.
just good. It had digital ice, I think, back then, which
Yeah,
you
that's it,
remove.
yeah.
Yeah. Remove all your like dust and
Yeah.
scratches from
Yeah.
your nags. Yeah. It's a pretty big deal because
Wow.
a lot of people will have negatives that they're trying to digitize again, and the flatbed scanners have issues with bowing, so the film's not it's
Hmm.
not like a flat plane. So you have to
Right.
press it down, and that becomes difficult. You have to buy anti-Newton ring glass. It's a whole thing. So yeah.
Last time I used it was just testing to make sure it worked after it came back from repair from
Wow.
Nikon Amsterdam.
Wow. I mean, it's basically a Nikon camera,
Yeah.
essentially. It's got
Yeah.
ED glass in it and everything. It's pretty
Wow.
sweet.
I have
Yeah. So someone said this is
full.
your retirement fund.
I have the full film roll, like the uncut film roll
Oh,
attachment on the back.
I used that when I
Um,
worked at the at our university newspaper. It was
and
amazing. You could load a whole roll on. It was fantastic. It
and
automatically finds the
also
film.
the slides, like a stack
Yeah.
slide attachment. Yeah.
Woo. You can't even get the frames for slides anymore. You can't find people who will like, cut and
Mm.
frame them, which is even more difficult. Yeah. Yes, I
Wow.
legitimately still shoot film, but yeah.
Wow.
That is it for me.
So
in terms of stuff I do.
other so I haven't bought anything else.
Oh
Let me make sure nothing
no,
else that I've purchased. I did get something this morning. What did I just buy this morning?
this guy,
It'll
he
be
just
here
buys stuff and forgets.
tomorrow. Oh, that was just a desktop, like a DAC, for, but that unimportant. But I started watching TV, Sugar.
Oh, is it about what's his name? Sugar,
No,
the guy.
no, it's not about anybody real.
Nobody real.
But
Sure.
it's played
It's got
by
Colin Farrell. Whew.
Colin Farrell, and it's
Ooh,
it's
detective fiction.
but
Nice.
yes, and there's quite a twist. Quite a twist.
I haven't heard of Kirby, who is apparently quite famous as Ruby, the second character.
Okay.
Did I have
Um,
Amy
yeah,
Ryan as well?
there's quite a bizarre twist towards the end.
Okay, I will close the Wikipedia page so I don't.
You do you any
I will
chance
watch
that you'll see it? You will see it. Okay,
absolutely.
it's
I
great.
love
It's great.
detective dramas. Yeah, I'm a sucker for
It's
them. I
great.
don't know why. I don't know why.
Yeah. And then the other. So I binged that a week ago, and then the one that I started watching this week, which I also really like, is Dark. Uh,
Just Dark?
Dark. No, not Dark.
Dark
Oh,
Matter?
so I've got a
I've seen
story
Dark.
about Dark. I've got a story about Dark. Well, so Dark, that series, like it was like German series or one of those countries.
Finnish? Norwegian?
Finnish,
Yeah, it's a
sure,
language that
yeah.
sounded German to
So
me for sure, but was
yeah.
not. Okay.
And so there's like they go through this cave and they've got
Yeah,
time travel and there's
yeah.
this nuclear power plant and all that.
Super weird.
And
There was some, there was some German things in there for sure, which is
there
quite
were
funny.
and the last season got really, really weird.
I didn't know the before last season was really, really weird. So yeah.
Really, I mean, it got weirder.
Okay.
But I had at one point, like during the first season, my mother was asking for a recommendation. I said, "Well, Dark is something I've been watching. It's pretty interesting because the first season
That's a
was pretty
risky
tame.
recommendation.
Okay,
Yeah.
it was pretty tame. So she goes and looks for Dark. Oh, was that Dark Matter?
That's what
Oh,
I was
Dark
saying.
Matter is
It
the
got
new
rebooted,
series.
right? Yeah, yeah.
So, well, anyway, Dark. Yeah. So there's a movie called Dark.
Oh. Oh, it can't be good.
And that's what she started watching, and
Oh no.
it's very not completely not a movie I would recommend to my mother.
Yeah, this looks like a thriller.
In there
Yeah,
were two
not gonna
people in
watch it.
bed that might not normally, uh, in her view, be in bed together.
Yeah.
So
Not
that
watching
was
this.
that was my dark
Looks
story.
dark.
But on Apple TV right now, there's another one
But
that
Dark Matter
starts
is
with
the series in space, right?
okay. That's not what I'm thinking of.
With an alien in the hull? No? Maybe I'm thinking of Altered Carbon.
TV Plus. What's it called? It's called Dark. Oh, Dark Matter. He's right.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
So about yeah, it's about like multiple multiple realities, multiple. Yeah,
Yep.
it was really cool.
Specifically
It's
has Jennifer Connelly in it, which
has Jennifer Connelly in it.
shouldn't be a draw, but like I do recall her from other stuff. So for me, when I saw that on
Rocketeer.
AppleTV, yeah, I was like, I'll watch this. Exactly. Great in
Yeah.
Rocketeer.
Yeah.
Awesome. I will watch it.
Yeah, that was
And it's
that's been great. I'm
now this
watching
is
that
one
now.
of those releases once a week things. Are you? Because I would
Yeah.
rather wait. Are you?
I
You're on the
thought I was
train?
gonna binge and the whole thing, and then I was getting about to ready to watch episode 5, and 5's not out until tomorrow, I think.
5 is out tomorrow.
Like, what?
No,
Damn it!
give me it. I can't
Picked
watch
the
the whole
wrong
thing at
show to
once.
watch.
What am I paying for? Exactly.
Let me go back to Loot or something else, some other show that's already done.
All right, I
Yeah.
got to drop. I unfortunately have an appointment to go to, but yeah, this was awesome. I will
What?
be here last week. Not last week. I will be here next week.
You'll be here last week? Great.
Yeah, this is. I've been reading the synopsis of the show DarkMatter, so yes, I'll be here last week.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Yeah, awesome show. Thank you very much for all the comments.
Thank
That
you.
was awesome. Made it lively.
And
Kept things poking around.
for the person that mentioned adverts on this, sorry, I turned that on without realizing I turned it on, and it must have been a little bit too aggressive. So I will roll that back.
Oh shoot, I did see that. Sorry, I wasn't. I
Yeah.
thought that was okay. I didn't realize what that was about.
That was about ads on this.
Yeah, so it looks like it happened right around mid-roll. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Have an awesome day. Let's find the button.
Find the button.